If you're anything like me, the first time you saw the JavaScript sort method, it was a bit confusing as there are some different things going on if you're kind of new to it. But trust me, once you gain a understanding of how it works and you run through some practice problems for yourself, you will understand how this works and it will click for you. So in this video, I'm going to help you understand how the JavaScript sort method works. So first things first, the sort method will sort an array in place and it will return the mutated array. Additionally, this is kind of the tricky part with this sort method is that by default, it converts the elements to strings and then it sorts them. So if you're working with strings and you just want to sort an array of strings, it's going to work like normal and you can just call .sort without passing any arguments into it. But if you're working with numbers, it will first convert those numbers to strings and then it will sort them, which gives us a undesirable output, which I show in a little bit. And just a quick note on what I have wrote here, this array.prototype.sort. So in JavaScript, arrays are wrapped in objects, and on the overall array object, it has a prototype property that shares all these helpful methods with any array that you create within your program. So any array that you create within your program, it's effectively going to inherit or be able to use these methods that are stored on the array object that JavaScript gives you for free. So you don't necessarily need to think about the prototype at all when you're doing this. Just kind of a quick note on why this is available to you. Okay. Now, moving on here, since I mentioned that the sort method can give you undesirable outputs if you just call it without any arguments, just using the default sort, the way around that is that the sort method also allows you to pass a function as an argument to .sort. And this function is typically called a comparison function. And it basically allows you, the programmer, to determine how you want your array to be sorted. So it takes an optional comparison function to determine what value should be in front of the other value, how it should be sorted. And what it's going to do here is it's going to pass two elements of your array to this function. Let's call it element A and element B. This could be the first element and the second element of your array. And what you're going to do within your function is you're going to return a negative value from your function if you want the first value to be in front of the second. But you're going to return a positive value from this function if you want your second value to be in front of the second. Okay, so you return a negative value if you want the first value passed to this callback function to be in front, and a positive value if you want the second value passed to this function to be in front. Okay, so let me take you through some examples here to make this a lot more clear. So first things first, let's look at what happens when we call the .sort method here on an array of strings. Like I said earlier, when we're using strings, we don't really have to worry about anything because by default, JavaScript converts the elements of the array to strings and then sorts them. So here, let me run this. And as you can see here, when I console log the return value, so here wrapping console log with myArray.sort, it's going to console log whatever this evaluates to here. So this is console logging the return value of calling myArray.sort. Now, console logging the return value here is going to give me a sorted array. So A, B, E, Q, R, S, T. These numbers are alphabetically sorted. And then you can also see when I just console log my array here, I get the same effect because the sort method does indeed mutate the array. A mutation does take place. So when I call this function on an array of strings, you can just call the default sort and you're going to get the expected value. Now, what happens if I call this on some numbers here? Like I said, this is first going to convert these to strings and then it's going to do the sort operation. So when I run this code, you see the sorted output is 1, 100, 20, and then 300. As you can see, this is not a sorted array of numbers. And what takes place here is after it converts it to strings, it's basically going to make the comparison character by character in the string. So when it's going through this string here, it's first going to be like, okay, is the character 2, is that smaller or larger than the character 1? Well, that's actually larger than the character 1. So since that is true, JavaScript is just going to put 100 in front of 20. And then when it goes through the next iteration, it's going to compare, okay, is that less than or greater than 300? Well, it's less than, so it's going to put 20 in front of 300. And then it's going to compare 300 to 1. It's going to put 1 in front, and then 1 is going to make its way to the front of the array. But it's going to compare these character by character. So, like I said in this example here, since it compares these first characters first, it's going to see that 2 is larger than 1 here, and it's going to put that in the front of the array because it converts it to strings, and then it will compare it character by character to get the output. So that's not what we want. But as I said, we can pass the number array a custom made function. So let me show you how this works here. So we call my number array again here with the .sort method, and then we pass in the sort numbers function. And then what the .sort method is going to do is it's automatically going to pass this function 2 values of your array. And then you write the custom logic to determine which value should be in front of the other. And you return a negative value if you want the first value to be in front of the other. And you return a positive value if you want the second value to be in front. And it's common to kind of use the syntax of A and B, calling this the A value, and this the B value. So if A is less than B, I want to return a negative value. I return -1 because I want the A value to be in front. But if that's not true, if B is greater than A or they're equal, I'm just going to return 1. And I'm going to say, hey, let's actually put this B value in front. And then if I run this here, and let me first clear my console. If I run this here, you're going to see I do indeed get the correct output of 1, 20, 100, and 300. Now, you can do the very same thing here when just using an inline function. And this, when you're using numbers, this tends to be a much more common way to do this. And what you'll actually see in a live professional code base is you'll see someone calling the .sort method, and then you pass in an inline function here with the parameter set as A and B. And then if you just return A minus B, and then let me comment this out and run it and show you that, hey, this does indeed work. We get the expected output. So this works because say we subtract 20 by 100. Well, we're going to get a negative value there. So that negative value is going to say, hey, let's put 20 in front. But say we subtract 100 by 20, we're going to get a positive value because 100 is bigger than 20. And we're actually going to want to put 100 in front. So if we return a positive value here, that's going to put 100 in front. So since a smaller value subtracted by a larger value is going to yield a negative value, this works here. And A minus B is going to return the correct output for sorting an array of numbers. So that is a very shorthand way to do it, but I know the first time I saw this, it really didn't make sense to me. So really in your head, think about how, okay, just think about some example comparisons in your head and think about if you pass 20 and 100. Well, here you would see 20 minus 100, that's -80. Since that's a negative value, that's going to put 20 in front, which is what we want. And vice versa, if It was a larger value and a smaller value there. Now, you can also use this comparison function to sort an array of objects very easily. So here I have my object array, which is an array of key value pairs of a name and an age. And then I have a sort objects by age function in which I want to effectively sort this array by someone's age. So the younger people I'm going to put in the front of the array and the older in the back. So here this looks very similar to my function sort numbers up here. If a.age is less than b.age, I'm going to return -1 because I want the a value to be in front. Because its age is smaller, I'm going to return a negative value and put that, the a parameter, in front. Else, I'm going to return a positive value. I'm going to put b in front because its age is smaller or equal to. So here I'm going to take this array, I'm going to call the sort method, and then I'm going to pass in my function sort objects by age, and then the sort method is going to pass 2 values to my function on each iteration, and I'm going to return a negative or positive value depending on which value I want to put in front. So if I run this here, you see that I get a sorted array where it is sorted by their age. And if you wanted to sort this in the opposite order, so you want to put the older people in front, well, you just change this one line of code here and you do if a.age is greater than b.age, then we want that one in front. And if I run this, you can see that now my array is sorted by older in front and then the younger or towards the back of the array. Now you can also do this very concisely in one line of code to where you can just do my object array.sort a comma b and then a.age minus b.age. Just like we did earlier, just using the shorthand of a minus b, we get the correct output. And like I said, that's because if this age is smaller than b.age here, it's going to return a negative value and it's going to put the a element in front of the b element, which will effectively sort this array correctly. So in summary here, the JavaScript sort method, it sorts an array in place and returns the mutated array. By default, it converts the elements to strings and then does the sort. However, this is usually what we don't want if we don't have an array of strings. And in this case, we can pass it a comparison function in which JavaScript will pass 2 elements of our array at a time at each iteration to this comparison function. If we return a negative value from our comparison function, it means we want to put the first element in front. And if we return a positive value, it means we want to put the second element in front. And I also took you through some examples of sorting objects and using kind of some shorthand methods here. So I recommend kind of playing around with this some more. It will make more and more sense as you gain experience in it. And I hope you learned something here and I hope that helped you out. And I will see you in that next one.